Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to help you to open your mind, get curious about yourself and raise your consciousness levels. I am your host, Karen Maloney, and I work as an inside-out coach, mentor and guide, helping women to revolutionize their internal chatter and create a life they love. Listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you choose. And be sure to like, subscribe, review, and share the podcast. Check out my website as well, soulpowerlight.com, for more info. Hello everybody. Welcome. How are you all doing? It's me, Karen Maloney, and thanks for tuning in for another episode. And this is a wonderful episode with a wonderful lady who actually, as this episode goes live, I am currently in training with her to train in her modality, silent counselling. So this week my guest is Candice Wilson, and Candice is a business and lifestyle coach based in Scotland. Candice is the world leader in a modality called silent counselling, and this modality was born in Scotland and is spreading rapidly across the globe due to the speed and impact it has in helping people. It works by touching acupressure points and breath work to release energy blocks causing trauma, pain, anxiety, fear and phobias, and much more. It taps into the body's natural ability to heal itself, and Candice is passionate about training women in this modality and then also supporting them in setting up their business to help others. So honestly, again, this was such a brilliant conversation with Candice about her work as a business and lifestyle coach, and also her personal story and what brought her to silent counselling and the impact that it had on her. But she talks as well a lot about limiting beliefs, what they are, how we can pick them up from a very young age. She says most of the time she believes we pick them up before the age of 5, and often they can be very subtle or a small trivial thing that forms this deep belief that we then root into and we build and confirm over and over and over again in our lives. But again, this is all very subconscious. So with silent counselling, and she explains what it is, it helps to get to the root of these emotional and energetic issues in order to release them and heal or create more empowering beliefs. And she calls silent counselling a non-invasive meridian therapy. So yeah, a really wonderful conversation with Candice. And she also talks about EFT and emotional freedom, or tapping, that many people are familiar with, and how many principles are similar as in silent counselling, but also the differences. And she talks about muscle testing as well, which is used in this modality. And muscle testing is like our body's own way of communicating with us. So a brilliant conversation, lots to take from it. And you can find out more on Candice's work on her website, www.candicewilson, that's CANDICE, Wilson, WILSON.co.uk. But as always, I will share all links to her website, to her social media, TikTok, everything on my website, KarenMaloney.com, and click the podcast section. Enjoy. Hello everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining and tuning in for another episode. I have another brilliant guest joining me this week. And first of all, Candice Wilson, you're very welcome and thanks for joining.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. I look forward to this, having the chat with you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Just have the chats and talk about all your incredible work and a really powerful modality as well that you are the world leader in. And I'm excited to get into it all. But you're a business and lifestyle coach and also a leader in silent counselling. So first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your work?
Okay, thanks very much. Yes, Karen, so my name is, as we say, Candice Wilson, business and lifestyle transformational coach. And I suppose I added, I was a life coach. I was a life coach for a number of years. And in that journey, I brought in silent counselling, and I'll talk more about that. But when I brought silent counselling into my coaching, the common thread that was coming through near enough every client was saying, this is transforming my life. You are transforming my life. And I always say, it's not me, it transforms anyone's life, but it definitely gave me the I suppose, motivation to add transformation into my title. So I was a lifestyle transformational coach, a life transformational coach, and what was happening was many of my clients were going on to find their purpose through the work that we were doing. They were going on to find their purpose. Many of them wanted to bring the silent counselling into their toolkit, and many of them wanted to help others. And what was happening is many of them were then going off on their journey and contacting me maybe some months later, sort of saying they didn't know where to start with the business element, or they'd maybe got caught up in a different business concept and didn't quite benefit from the way that worked. So I started then thinking, well, I've actually for 6-7 years now, I've been using business processes and finding the right way to do businesses, and done lots of mistakes, lots of learnings, lots of way forward, and realising that actually many of what about running business is not about the marketing. It's not about all these sort of business processes or the strategy. It's a lot around mindset and energy, and recognising that self-sabotage comes into it very strongly. So I decided to then put a business element into my coaching. So that's then why I've become also a business coach. So I run a lifestyle program, but also offer a business coaching program as well, just to help people go to that next step and take their business to the place that they want to take it to.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love that you mentioned as well, running businesses. It really is, mindset and more psychology side of things.
Yes.
Well, as they say, the strategy is like 20%, and most of us know the strategy. We know what we need to do and how we need to do it or whatever, but it's the why aren't we doing it? So that's really, really powerful. Mm-hmm. And what did you find through that work that helped people the most, or to help them? You mentioned self-sabotage was one of the bigger things, and maybe this is where the silent counselling comes in, or even before then. What did you find really help people to overcome that self-sabotage, because it is a huge thing we all face at times?
Yes, absolutely. I found this is where I found the silent counselling, because most people that I've worked with, and myself included, had a deep-rooted limiting belief of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, or my needs are not important. So once we've been able to help them identify that, then they're able to recognise, one, that's why I have a struggle charging for my worth. So keep the prices low. So never really get moving as a business owner. Two, that's why they don't think they're good enough or worthy. So every time they start getting a little bit successful, they put something in the way. So something subconsciously, they don't intend to do it, but something stops them. They stop maybe doing the practices that they were doing. They go into panic. It's almost like they're frightened of their own power. And so the silent counselling, and by digging deep and getting to the root cause, we're able to really start to put that sabotage to bed. And then the strategies come. But what I think, once they're in that energetic flow, everything else falls into place, and the universe follows, rather than kind of getting, so as you say, 20% of the strategy. So without a doubt, the energy and the mindset work is what I feel makes the biggest difference. Getting to the root cause, working out that they are good enough, that they are worthy. So changing that mindset, and also changing the energy, shifting the energy and releasing the energy that's holding them back. So that enables them to move forward much, much more powerfully.
Yeah. Changing that energy is everything. Yes. And, limiting beliefs have been spoken about lots on various different episodes and everything as well. And it's something we all struggle with. And what, in your words, are limiting beliefs, or where do they come from as well? Where do we pick up these, subconscious hidden ideas or beliefs that we feel we're not good enough, we're not worthy, who am I to be successful or charge this amount, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, most of the time it's pre-5, I would say, maybe younger, but most of the time we pick up, because in the silent counselling we do go to the root cause, and also use some kind of subconscious work. I would say more often than not, it's pre-5, and it's often by something that you would never ever think it is. It can be something very, very small, or that would seem very, very trivial, but it forms a belief. So it could be something like the nursery teacher asked you to go and sit at the other table because something, and you thought that meant that you weren't good enough and that the good people were sitting at the better table. Or it could be something so small as that, but once that seed's planted, then somebody in the playground said something to you that fed that belief, and then a teacher said something to you, then your parent said something to you. So it's almost like then, by the time you've got to adulthood, that belief is so firmly rooted, but you don't know it's there. And because you don't know it's there, you can't work with it. You don't know what to do. So the limiting beliefs is great and the mindset is great, but if you can't get to the root cause, for me, if you've got a mindset of I'm not good enough that you don't even know is there, what you do know is there is, I keep procrastinating. Every time I go into a room and I'm asked to speak, I get nervous and I have imposter syndrome, or because you don't know that deep-rooted belief's there. So you can change your mindset a bit, but until you can get to the root cause, you're not able to firmly, really fully release that, in my experience. And I think once you get to the root cause and take that belief, remove that belief from the root, and then install some new empowering beliefs, because you realise how nonsensical the first belief is. Yeah. And that is often the case for my clients. And some people might be brought up by parents who are like very, very highly educated, doctors, consultants. I have clients who have got very, very well educated backgrounds and very wealthy parents. That could bring up a belief of I'm not good enough because you've not achieved what the parents. Or you could be brought up with parents who are very abusive, very like maybe narcissistic parents, or parents who are neglectful. And that could bring up a belief of I'm not good enough. So it doesn't necessarily come from, your background, because it could come from so many ranges of things, but somewhere along the line, you've created this. Another one is being I'm not worthy, or my needs are not important. I think that's a very, very common one. My needs are not important, especially in the care field, especially people who work like us. So they're very much, they keep giving and giving and giving, and not really taking the time to care for themselves or putting enough value on themselves to recognise that they're worthy of receiving as well.
Yes, thank you so much for going into that and explaining a little bit more. And I love as well how you mention, it can be so trivial. Like sometimes we think or we believe that something major or some major trauma has to have happened in order for us to feel not worthy or not good enough, or whatever the case may be. But like you said, yes, that's a case, but a lot of the time that's not the case. It's something seemingly so inconsequential, but then we build stories and we keep reaffirming it. And like I always say as well, I'm like, the clue is in the word. It's subconscious. We're actually not conscious of it, like you've mentioned as well. And that's why the work is going within. And I know you mentioned like we can see clues like procrastination, but again, we may not know the deeper root. So I love that what you do as well and what you're bringing, you get to the root cause as well. So you've mentioned that a couple of times, and we've mentioned the word silent counselling. So maybe if you'd like to explain a little bit more about what silent counselling is, and maybe even how you discovered it.
Yes. Okay. So silent counselling is what we call a non-invasive meridian therapy. So it's a therapy based on the concept that the mind and body are connected, and that we store emotions in our energy field connected to past life events. So that sounds maybe quite complicated, but in essence, like how blood goes through the veins, energy goes through the meridians. So we're working with the meridians as you do in acupuncture. So we're working with these acupressure points and using some touching and breathing. And from that concept, so each meridian has an emotion attached. So if you're holding on to, say, shame, that's attached at the chin. So that's where we work on with silent counselling, and we would identify where that shame came from using muscle testing, and then go to the touching and breathe points to release that. So almost like if you can imagine you've got a straw and there's something stuck in the straw, we're just blowing that out. So allowing the energy to flow. Once that energy flows, you've you've not got the connection to that negative belief or feeling or energetic, like that's not there anymore. So it's just, it allows your energy to go back and flow. So you stop the self-sabotage, you stop the anxiety, you stop the depression. Everything just sorts itself out because you're not given that energy's not there anymore. How I discovered silent counselling was, and for me, it's how I was given this gift. Because that's what it is. It's been an absolute gift. And I went to see this lady. So silent counselling is born in Scotland. It's rapidly spreading across the globe. I'm excited today to be talking to you from Mexico because I feel like I'm on a mission to get as this is widespread as far as we can, because it's such a simple, fast and easy to learn concept that, especially the way the world is just now, I do feel like we need to share this to as many people as possible. But I discovered that 7 years ago, I was going through some personal difficulties. My marriage was crumbling, and I was a coach. I was going out there and I was helping all these people, but emotionally, I was struggling so much myself. And I knew I had to do something about it. I really struggled to think about who can help me. And a neighbour suggested that I speak to this woman called Marjorie Cooper, who's based in Perth in Scotland. And I went to Marjorie, and Marjorie sat opposite me, and I said to her, yeah, I'm really struggling. I'm just feel uptight all the time, and I'm crying, and etc., all the different emotions that I was struggling with at that point. And Marjorie says to me, okay, so she sat opposite me, touched my wrist a few times, and then asked me what was going on in my life with the ages of 10 and 14. To which I'd never heard of any of this kind of work before. So I was just like, wow, yeah, my parents separated at age 10, and that was a really turbulent time in my life. And Marjorie said, yeah, okay, so you're carrying a lot of shame connected to that time. And she just asked me to okay, go to your chin and connect to that emotion. And, well, the emotions and the memory just come flashing back, like just different things that kind of happened at that time that I really struggled with. And what the shame that I was like, only friend I knew that had divorced parents and had to move house so many times, and I'd lost a lot of friends. And so it was just so much that sort of went on. But all this emotion just come out of me, and I cried for about 2 minutes. I cried. And then suddenly I just felt amazing. And I cannot describe how amazing it felt. It was just like, wow, what's just happened? And I've not even had to tell her all this stuff. I didn't even know that was anything to do with the problem. I had no idea. I just thought what was happening right now was the problem. And I left Marjorie that day, and I drove home, which was about a 30-minute drive. And I could not believe how amazing I felt, because for months now I'd been carrying all this stuff. I just kept burping. I was really burping because I'm releasing all this energy. I was just burping. Time I got home, I felt like I could take on the world, and I had a completely different perspective on things. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I went to Marjorie maybe 3 or 4 times that year for just different things, and every time I was just like, wow, how did she? And I just assumed she had some mega degree in something super knowledgeable, because
highly gifted and
yes, because there's no way that she couldn't with what this magic that she was doing with me. So by the end of the year, I had sort of said to Marjorie, I'd love to do this with my coaching clients. I was a coach by this time. And she said, oh, yeah, come along, I'll train you. And I was like, all right, okay. How? She said, 2 days training. I was like, no way. 2 days training to do what you're doing for me? Marjorie said, yeah, come along. I went to this training, and in some ways it took the magic out of it, because it was so simple. It was like, no way. Is that what you've been doing? Oh, my God. How did I not even notice that what she was doing? But I was just like, the world needs to know about this. I was so blown away. And then I brought it into my practice, and every client was just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, this is gold, this is magic, this is just getting this feedback constantly. So after a year or two, I was like, I had trained quite a lot in previous roles, and I was like, yeah, Marjorie, I need to learn how to be a trainer in this, because I want to share this with more people. So couple of years later, so I had to practice for a few years, and then a couple of years later, I become a trainer, and that was only maybe 6 months, I think, before we got the lockdown. I think that's maybe about 3 years now. So it was maybe about a year before the lockdown. I was a trainer, and at that time, I was only, because I just assumed I could only train in person. So I was just running small groups, like 12 people at a time, twice a year, kind of film 2 groups a year for that first maybe 18 months it would be. And then COVID struck, so I then couldn't run any groups. So for about 6 months, I kind of sat on this, and then I think it was just last September, I discovered a way to manage it online, how to teach people to muscle test online, how to. Loads of people are asking me, like, can you change it to manage online? So now it's just been the best gift, because we have reached absolutely at least 30 countries now. I need to count up, but we've managed to reach at least 30 countries across the globe. People, I am inundated with requests. So much so I've now taken on a team to support me, because there's just so much happening with it. But so in the last few months, I then become the first tutor to be trained across the globe, so that I could train other trainers. And then last month, I also become a co-owner in the Institute of Silent Counselling. So I'm really excited to develop this and spread the word and take it wherever it needs to go just now.
Yeah, wow. Well, that is incredible. And thank you for sharing, some of your own personal journey and how you discovered it and how you benefited so much from it. And that's just so amazing to hear that, and how, again, it just reminds me again of like what you spoke about earlier, how the energy can get blocked, from different things in our lives. And if it's not released, it really does hold us back, and we can walk around often, slamming our head against the wall going, but, what is it? And for me, in every illness, every issue, there's always that emotional or energetic element that I think is missing from a lot of whether Western or mainstream medicine or whatever it is. So I just love these kind of modalities as well. And just, you mentioned acupressure points, the meridian points, and breath work. Maybe just even run down some of them quickly for people to give them an idea of kind of some of the emotions that can be released from different meridian or acupressure points.
Yeah, well, I think what I love about it is some of the points almost, like the body tells its own story. And that's what's beautiful with this kind of work, because the client doesn't need to talk about the problems. So we could take the client right to the root cause, and the client does not need to talk about the problems, because the body tells its own story. And even the way you're working, if you think about the way, I'll share some of the elements of it with you, and you can see how, again, we're almost naturally, because we're tapping into the body's natural ability to heal itself. And that's what's so beautiful about this. So if you're struggling with frustration and resentment, if you're feeling frustrated and resentful and tense, often where you'll go is you would put your fingers at the side of your temples. That's often a kind of place where you would go with that kind of stress level. And that's one of the acupressure points. So frustration and resentment, it's tapping into the temples with 2 fingers on the left and 2 fingers on the right, and just connecting to what it is that you're frustrated or resentful about, and bringing that into your conscious awareness, breathing it in, but then releasing it. It's like just blowing it away, and it's almost, that's what you're thinking, it's just, actually, I'm blowing this away. Because normally, once you connect to it, you're realising how much power this has held over you, and you can just let it go. So the side of the eye is one of the points for frustration and resentment. The chin, as I was saying earlier, just under the chin is where we hold shame. And as you'll know, Karen, shame is one of the lowest vibration emotions. So if you're carrying predominantly shame, you cannot find joy. You cannot find joy in anything, because, or any length of time you can experience joy, because this shame has so much weight. So under the chin is where we hold shame. And then, like the index finger, like if you're thinking about pointing the finger, like where you might be pointing the finger at someone or kind of pointing the finger at yourself. And that's where we store blame or guilt or withholding forgiveness is in the index finger. And again, I suppose there's a few stages for people. So like you might not go on and just go to your temple here, because it would depend and feel the instant release, because all I'm giving you is some of the practices. The key thing about silent counselling is you're taking your client to the root cause, and you're identifying the emotions that they're holding connected to that past life event. So some of the practices might work, but it won't work if you're not in what we call polarity, because you need to get your body into flow. So we'll have some points to help you get your body into flow. We also have points to help you release toxins, because that could knock you from being in polarity and stop you being in flow. So there's a number of different processes that, if you're not feeling this beneficial, that you might have to do first, just to help you get into flow. But yeah, we've got points in our head. We've got 14 meridian points that we work with. So some are in the head, some are in the body. Fear is a very, very strong emotion at the moment, and we hold that in our collarbone. That primal fear, that fight or flight, that security, the survival instinct, that all comes in our collarbone. So many people are struggling with fear at the minute, and that's a great point for that as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing just some of those. And I mean, like that, hitting on some of the most common underlying emotions as well that we often may not know, between blame and guilt, and obviously fear is underlying in a lot of things, and shame. And you mentioned muscle testing as well during the conversation. What is the importance of muscle testing as well with silent counselling?
Well, what the muscle testing does, again, this is something I've only discovered in the last few years, 6-7 years, but muscle testing is tapping in to your body's giving you the answers and there's a number of different ways of muscle testing, but one way that maybe your viewers can try is what we call the sway. Some people might be familiar with the concept of a pendulum, and the sway is almost saying it's like your body is your own pendulum, you don't need the pendulum. So if you were standing up and relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your knees, and just allowing your body to do what it feels natural, and if you're just saying yes, 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 let your body do what it needs to do, most often you would go forward. Now, again, it's not just straightforward, because you might not be in polarity. So if you're not in polarity, there are some points you need to work on. And I'll leave details, because you'll find some of these points on some of my videos on my website, etc. But yes, if you say yes, you would come forward if you're in flow, and if you say no, you would go backwards. And there's your body. It's almost your energies flowing with what your body needs to tell you. So you can then start asking some questions just by working with that concept. And just have fun with it. Like, I am female, I am male, I live in Mexico, I live in Scotland, and just see what your body tells you. But as basically as the energy is, it's all around energy, and the muscle testing it gives your body's response to a yes or no question. It's such a, again, simple but so powerful and such a helpful resource to have.
Yeah, so powerful. And again, it's us connecting with ourselves, with our truth, with our body, with our energy, because again, nobody else can know us better than ourselves, but that's not something we're often taught. We're often taught to outsource everything. Like, we can't do anything for ourselves. Someone else has to help. And yes, there can be an element, but again, we are so powerful as well, and our bodies are so incredible. And once we learn how to use them, and I always say as well, like, our body is the greatest piece of technology, bar none, that we will ever have in our whole entire life, but we just don't know how to use it. We're just not taught much. And that's why I love having these conversations as well, and myself exploring and learning different modalities, because the more I learn, the more it just blows my mind, and how fascinating it is, and how fascinating we are in our bodies, and how it's always communicating with me. So thank you as well for sharing all that. And I know for some people as well, and you mentioned the word tap and tapping, and recently we had a tapping expert join as well, and I think a lot more people are familiar with EFT or tapping. And how does silent counselling differ from it?
Yes, it's a great question, and a very common question that I get asked, because there's a lot of similarities between EFT and silent counselling. And I trained in EFT about 10 years ago and love EFT, love the concept of that. What's different about silent counselling and EFT is So EFT, I only done a 1-day training, so there's possibly much more to it. But in the training I delivered, and from what I know about EFT, is almost a general. So you go to all the meridian points, and you're sort of tapping in, even though I feel anxious, I truly and deeply accept myself type of thing, and you're going to the meridian points. And at some point, at work on the meridian point, you need to work on. So it might be like you've got a spot for anxiety, so you might go to that spot and you get more release from that spot. In silent counselling, what the beauty of silent counselling is one, is we do work on the same meridian points, but we go straight to the root cause, so we know exactly what that problem is at the root cause, and we release it from the root cause. So your body gives you the answers. Whereas, as I say, in EFT, it's a more general, but the body's giving you the answers with silent counselling, and then it releases from that root cause as well. So, and this is much more about touching and breathing, because the touching and breathing releases the emotion, and the tapping can almost puts emotions in. So in silent counselling, we work with both elements, but in essence, most of it is the touching and breathing. That's a slight difference, but from my experience, and I can only talk about my experience and a number of people who have come on the training, the thing that gets said most is it's like EFT on steroids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, from what you've shared for the conversation as well, the fact even as well that you don't have to talk, I think that's a big thing for a lot of people as well. And I think tapping is incredible as well, but some people get stuck on language or feeling like they have to say the right thing. So I think that's really powerful as well, that between the muscle testing and knowing exactly which point to go to, and then, like you say, breathing into it and releasing that emotion definitely would help people as well hugely without having to speak about it. And obviously you've mentioned some of the benefits in that, but what are the benefits of it, or how can it be used? Is it applicable to everyone? And even and I know you mentioned from your own life some of the benefits you have experienced, but what have you seen as well with others?
Oh, honestly, I mean, this is something, I've been so busy that I'm not managing to get all the testimonials out there, but I cannot tell you how phenomenal it is. So the one from 2 days ago, where a woman was in a wheelchair, and it sounds like I'm actually sometimes thinking, right, I need to start looking how to turn water into wine, because it feels like, you just feel like this is too good to be true. But the woman, the wheelchair user, shared with me at the weekend that after experiencing silent counselling, she had managed to walk a distance that she'd never walked for 2 years, and do things like, simple things like having a shower, that she'd never managed to do for 2 years, and that was experiencing silent counselling. I've got one client who, she was on methadone for 17 years. Most beautiful woman, and ended up on methadone. It was nothing that she had done; it was stuff that had been done to her, type of thing. But she was seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, addiction experts, mental health experts, psychiatric nurses for 17 years, and she was desperate to come off methadone. And what she told me is every one of them told her she wouldn't manage, because emotions would be far too strong, because she had such a traumatic early years. And she was so determined, she wanted to lead a normal life. So we went on a journey together using silent counselling, because I'm thinking, well, we could manage every emotion that comes up. We can manage that through silent counselling. And because she had a lot of faith in me and we had a beautiful relationship together, we were able to go on that. And within 6 months, she was completely weaned off methadone. And that was 2 years, and she's still weaned off methadone. So it works amazingly well for addictions. It works for fears. It works for phobias. It works for mental health, anxiety, depression, so many, like social anxiety, all the different types of kind of mental health, I suppose, the common issues. I'm not claiming that we can cure all, but in my experience, we've managed to help so many people release energy that's resulted in them having anxiety, depression, panic attacks, many panic attacks, fibromyalgia. I have about 10 clients that we've helped overcome fibromyalgia. Honestly, there's just so much. The only thing that we don't profess to help people heal with is allergies. We avoid allergies just because there can be anaphylactic shock, so we don't work with allergies. But everything else we can help with. And it's not even that we can help. My mission is to train up other people, but my mission is to help people help themselves and tap into their body's natural ability to heal itself. So hundreds of my clients have come off painkillers, have come off antidepressants, have come off medication, myself included. I had a thyroid. I was diagnosed with a extremely overactive thyroid a couple of years ago, and was told at the time I'd need medication for the rest of my life. And before I knew it, I was on 22 tablets a day, and that was the first time in my life I'd had to take medication, and I was determined that I was not going to be dependent on medication. And within 16 months, I'd managed to reduce down to sort of like one tablet a week. And then within the next month, I've not taken any medication for a year now. Yeah, and that's just using energy work.
Yeah. Amazing. And again, it's, even something you mentioned there, it's like a safe way to be able to deal and feel all these emotions, because that's the thing about emotion. They have to be felt in order to be released. But again, even in my own experience in life, I just didn't know how to feel, or it was just seemed so scary that it's like, okay, well, just keep running, keep going, avoid, hide, suppress, numb out, whatever it is. And I think that's a lot of us in life. So to be able to release those and to release that energy and to have that recirculate in the body in a healthy, positive way, and activating the body's natural healing ability, because it's the body that heals the body all the time. And being able to tap into that and work with that is just so powerful. And I have really loved today's conversation, and I know I shared with you randomly how we came across each other. A friend sent me a link last minute to join one of your masterclasses where you were talking about it and that, and she just thought I'd be interested in it. And next thing I know, I've signed up as well to train with you, and I'm super excited as well, because I don't know, just something about it was calling me as well. And when you shared some simple tools and techniques, even in that online class, the energy I felt coursing through my body was like, whoa. So
yeah, it's just amazing. It's amazing when we do the master classes, because there's it's like the collective, isn't it? So it's conscious collective, and what that brings together. So I've had so many beautiful messages from the master classes, and the healing that people have experienced just from that master class has been amazing.
Yeah, and the collective, that's a conversation for another day as well, the collective healing and the collective energies. But Candice, it's been such a beautiful conversation, empowering, and thank you for connecting. And please, if there's anything else that you feel called to share before we wrap up, please do. And please also share where people can find out more about your work.
Yes. So just one thing I would love to share is, wherever you are on your journey, if this conversation appeals to you, you can train in silent counselling, like whether you're at the very, very beginning of wanting to help people, or you've been an experienced therapist, coach, healthcare professional for many years. Silent counselling complements any toolkit. My virtual assistant went from being a virtual assistant and home organiser and trained in silent counselling, and she now is doing amazing work with it. So it's like wherever you are on your journey, silent counselling can help you. So it's great for self-help, and it's also great for helping others. So yes, you can find me on most of the social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Candice Wilson, Business and Lifestyle Transformation Coach. You can also check out my website, www.candicewilson.co.uk, or you can email me at hello@candicewilson.co.uk. And if you would like to just ask some questions and have a little chat, you can also book a discovery call, a complimentary discovery call. It'd be great to chat to you and just hear how curious you are and your experience from listening to this podcast. So you could do that at CandiceWilsonCoaching.asme.
Yeah, amazing. And like that, as always, I will have all links as well on the show notes from my website to all your different social media platforms and your website and different details there as well. So again, Candice, just thank you so much. It was an honor to connect today and to chat, and thank you for joining and sharing.
Lovely. Thank you. My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website www.soulpowerlight.com.